During this video, we're going to look at the Canon EOS 10D. To insert the battery, open the battery door on the bottom and push in until the release tab is engaged. The 10D uses a CR2025 coin battery to keep the date, time and other settings. Use a coin or a key to undo the cover, then slide the battery under the plastic tab and press into place. Place the cover back onto the camera and again use a coin or a key to tighten it back up. To insert the compact flash card, open the door and insert with the label facing the LCD screen as shown. The power button is below the LCD screen on the rear of the camera. When you look through the viewfinder, if the AF points don't look sharp, adjust the dial here until you see them clearly. For a lot of situations, the fully automatic mode, symbolised by a green rectangle, will be fine. Select this and then look through the viewfinder. Place your finger on the shutter button. The shutter button has two steps. If you hold it down halfway, the focus points in the viewfinder will light up. These indicate what the camera is focusing on. Press the shutter button all the way to take your picture. If you're not happy with the focus, you can put the camera into manual focus mode, using the switch on the side of the lens. Turning the focus ring grip will allow us to focus on what we would like to. Pressing the shutter button all the way will release the shutter and take the picture. There are other automatic modes for specific situations. These are portrait mode, landscape mode, macro mode, sports mode, nighttime mode and flash off automatic mode. These modes all have settings ideal for such type of photography. In order to take things a step further, we also have manual modes. P stands for Program AE, Automatic Exposure. This is an auto exposure mode which sets the aperture and shutter speed automatically. Exposure is also adjustable in this mode by pressing the AE lock star button and turning the dial on the rear. This will change the shutter speed and aperture to achieve the desired exposure. The dial on the top also allows us to alter the shutter speed and aperture to achieve the same result. TV stands for time value and gives the shutter the priority and is used mainly to adjust the shutter speed by using the dial on the top of the camera. Exposure can also be altered in TV mode by pressing the AE lock star button and turning the dial on the rear. This will alter the aperture to achieve the desired exposure. A flashing aperture value suggests the desired exposure is not possible. AV stands for aperture value, and this mode enables the user to set the aperture manually for creative use of depth of field, using the dial on the top of the camera. Exposure is also adjustable by pressing the star button and turning the dial on the rear. M mode allows a user to set shutter speed using the dial on the top and aperture using the dial on the rear. Again, exposure can be adjusted using the star button. A depth mode is a mode that sets the depth of field automatically. Again, adjust the exposure using the star icon and the rear dial. In the manual modes, we can also change the film speed by pressing the ISO button and then using the rear dial. We can then select the appropriate speed. Watch my film speed video for more information. To prevent adjustment of the wheel by accident, don't forget we can turn this off using the switch. We can also adjust the white balance in these modes in order to achieve the right or wrong light source, depending on the results we're hoping for. Press the WB button and use the rear dial. And don't forget, watch my white balance video for more information. We also have the ability to change the focus mode. One shot is best for still subjects. Once the shutter button is pressed halfway, the camera will focus. When using the AI focus mode, the camera will select the appropriate mode depending on the movement of the subject. The AI servo mode is better for moving subjects, as when the shutter button is pressed halfway, the camera will focus continuously until the shutter button is pressed all the way. A useful function is the ability to select individual focus points by pressing the AF point selection button and selecting the individual point we would like the camera to focus on. The top dial will select AF points to the left or right, while the rear dial will navigate up and down. In order to take more than one picture at once, we can press the drive mode button. Using the top dial, we can select continuous shooting. This will take pictures continually while the button is pressed, and is ideal for shooting sport images or moving subjects. Self-timer mode will take an image after 10 seconds. In this mode, it is advisable that you use the eye cover on the strap to prevent light from entering the viewfinder and affecting the exposure. Metering mode is a method of measuring brightness. We can adjust this by pressing the metering mode button and using the top dial. Evaluative metering is when the camera sets the exposure automatically by dividing the viewfinder into 35 zones. It will analyse the subject and lighting and select the correct exposure. If the lens is set to manual focus, the camera's automatic exposure will use the center AF point. Partial metering is effective when the background is brighter than the subject we are taking pictures of. The red circle shows the general area which is weighted to achieve exposure. Center weighted average metering is when it is weighted at the center and averaged out throughout the entire scene, as can be seen in this image. On the 10D, we can press the flash button on the front of the camera in order to pop up the flash and use it when shooting. We can also set the flash exposure. Press the flash exposure button and adjust with the rear dial. There is a depth of field button on the front of the camera which we can press to stop down the aperture in order to see the range of acceptable focus in the viewfinder. In low light conditions, the backlight button can help us see the settings screen more easily. Other useful functions on the 10D would be the ability to alter the brightness of the display. Press menu and then move down to LCD brightness. By pressing the set button in the middle of the rear dial, we can select this and adjust as desired. Press set again to make the selection. Some of the more advanced functions include auto exposure bracketing, which allows us to capture 3 different exposure levels of successive shots. The first being a standard exposure, the second being decreased, and the third being increased. White balance bracketing allows us to shoot a shot with 3 different colour temperatures at once. The first is the standard colour temperature, the second a bluish tone, and the third a reddish tone. ISO expansion allows us to increase the maximum speed to 3200 for shooting in low light, which is shown as H on the display. In order to play back our images, we can press the play button. We can zoom in and out of these using the zoom buttons and cycle through the images using the dial. When zoomed in on an image, press the direction switching button to change the directional movement within the image. The jump button will allow you to jump 10 images at a time, forwards or backwards. Pressing the info button while viewing images allows you to see the camera settings and a histogram of the image, which details image brightness across the spectrum. To download your pictures, insert your compact flash card into a card reader. Select your camera card. In this situation it's called New Volume, and select DCIM. Copy and paste the pictures to your desired location. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and feel free to like, share, comment and watch my other videos.